When George Washington stepped down from office, the first bitterly fought election in U.S. history followed, and John Adams came out on top. As president, he faced down threats from other nations and from within his own country that put the young republic in peril. But just how did Adams manage those firestorms? Well, that's the treasure we're out to discover. I'm Dan Luer, and this is History for Humans. Before we get going, I just want to remind teachers and homeschool parents that there are lesson plans and resources that go with this episode on my website, historyforhumans.com. And now, our exploration question for today's episode is, how well did Adams manage the foreign and domestic challenges that he faced as president? And foreign affairs just relates to dealing with other countries, and domestic refers to those at home in the United States. So consider both, and umbrellas out because there's a storm of history coming. When Washington was elected, there was really no contest for the presidency. It was pretty much just given to him. But when he stepped down, the election of 1796 was the first one in American history where there was a bitter competition for who would hold office. The presidential candidates were John Adams of the Federalist Party, who favored a strong national government, squaring off against his old friend but now rival Thomas Jefferson of the Democratic Republican Party, who feared federal power and favored states' rights and individual freedom, while still also supporting slavery. Adams squeaked by to victory with 3 more electoral votes than Jefferson, but due to the rules of the time, the person with the second most votes would become vice president. So Adams would have a fierce rival as his vice president. Awkward! And now, without the common enemy of King George or the unifying figure of Washington, the country was growing increasingly divided and tense. And that brings us to our quiz flash from the past. So which of these events do you guess actually happened in the halls of Congress? A Federalist was accused of plotting to kill Jefferson, a brawl between 2 representatives, a duel that left both men dead, or a representative was tarred and feathered. Who placed their bets on the brawl? That's right, it was B. So get this, Democratic Republican Representative Matthew Lyon spit tobacco juice in the face of Federalist Roger Griswold, who responded by beating the spitting Lyon over the head with his cane. Lyon then retreated and grabbed fire tongs and proceeded to club him right back. The two were eventually separated, but again, this was in the halls of Congress. This, though, was still a lot better than what was happening in France after their revolution. Disagreements were answered with the guillotine. And a reign of terror took the heads of not just the king and queen and noblemen and clergy members, but also fellow revolutionaries who disagreed with one another. Would tensions in America lead to the same bloody results? But the first crisis that President Adams actually faced was from the French themselves. The French Navy began seizing American ships, their cargo, and interfering with American trade. Over 300 American ships were seized, leading many Americans, especially those in the Federalist Party, to clamor for war. But Adams sought a peaceful solution instead, although the French wouldn't make it easy. Like Washington, Adams feared that a war would be too costly and risky for the young republic. Instead, he sent delegates to work out a treaty in France. The French foreign minister, though, wouldn't meet with them. So he sent 3 agents instead, known only as X, Y, and Z, who informed the American delegation that the minister demanded a bribe of $250,000 and a $10 million loan just to meet with them. The Americans were outraged. This became known as the XYZ Affair. Back at home, war fever broke out again. The rallying cry was, "Millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute." Meaning, we'll pay for war, but not your bribe. The Army was expanded, a Navy department and the Marines were created as the nation readied for war. While an official war was not declared, a quasi-war on the high seas was fought for 2 years. But Democratic Republicans, including the Vice President Thomas Jefferson, strongly opposed this conflict with France. Ostensibly to protect the nation, but really to deal a blow to their Jeffersonian rivals, the Federalist Congress passed and Adams signed the Alien and Sedition Acts. Fearing French immigrants, the Alien Acts allowed any immigrant considered dangerous to be imprisoned without charge and even deported. The Sedition Acts, though, went much further by making any criticism of Congress or the president illegal. The Spitting Lion was arrested, as were dozens of others in this flagrant violation of the First Amendment. As the Quasi-War carried on, Hamilton and other Federalists pressured Adams to push for war officially. You see, war would certainly rally Americans behind the president and the Federalist Party, and this would help them in the upcoming elections hold on and even increase their power. But Adams put securing peace before his own party, power, and presidency. In the year 1800, Adams sent another ambassador to France, who was finally able to work out a treaty that ended the conflict and protected American ships, at least for now. War was avoided, and it almost certainly cost Adams and the Federalists in Congress the election. The election of 1800, again between Adams and Jefferson, got even uglier and nastier than the previous one. But this time, Jefferson came out on top. And Adams' last move as president was absolutely revolutionary, even though today we kind of see it as trivial and commonplace. Adams peacefully stepping down from office and handing over the government to a bitter rival from another political party was something that had toppled and ended republics in the Greek and Roman states, as leaders sometimes just refuse to surrender their power and listen to the results of the election. But once again, Adams put the republic and the people before himself and his party, and handed over the reins of power to his rival, Thomas Jefferson. And in their elder years, after Adams and Jefferson both retired from politics, the aging revolutionaries once again became friends, exchanging letters until their last days. And on July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, both men lay in their beds ready to take their final breaths. Adams' last words were, "Thomas Jefferson still survives," not knowing that Jefferson had just passed away hours earlier. And gosh, that gets me every time. Because remember, that history is the light that guides us forward, so thanks for learning some today. This has been History for Humans.